Hello, hello, and good morning. Happy hump day. It is Wednesday, July 23rd, 2025. I am Manila Chan. That over there is Ted Rall. You are tuned into the Ted Manila Information Show, or just TMI Show for short, because we obviously bring you way too much information. We are live Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern time, so please be sure to like and follow this show. Subscribe to it wherever you're consuming this content. YouTube, thank you for stepping up to the plate. We are almost there at the monetization level. So if you're viewing and you have yet to subscribe, please help us out by hitting that red subscribe button. We are almost there to becoming official. So the Ted Manila Information Show starts now. We've got a guest on today to talk about a friend of the show, Achilles Laria, to discuss the economy, what it looks like for not only investors, but to the average Joe. Inflation, deflation, is any of that stuff actually good for the economy? Which is that good for us? So we'll talk about that from a consumer standpoint, but we'll get you all the latest news, like the somewhat surprise death of Ozzy Osbourne, for example, Mike Johnson dipping out from the House, calling it quits for the session early because of the Epstein files. We'll talk about, we'll talk about weed and psilocybin and LSD apparently showing signs that it might be really good for people with eating disorders. And if there's some time, maybe at the end of the show, there's a perfect election that I thought Ted and everybody, all you cat lovers, would love.
Speaking of which, Manila, I was trying to get your attention before we went on the air. I know you were busy doing tech stuff, but I learned that the Rall surname has German origins. I knew that. Often linked to a nickname for a noisy individual from the Swabian term Rallen, to make noise or screech like a tomcat.
And the tomcat you were, Ted. But this is serious business. It's election season, Ted. Mm-hmm. in Somerville,
That's true.
Mass.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
this is an election, I think, where all the candidates, it's going to be very difficult to choose.
Well, especially since a certain gray cat has decided not to run in this election.
Yeah, but you guys don't live in Somerville, Mass.
That doesn't matter. He just how he would just hack it, election interference.
He is Russian, after all.
That's right.
All right, with that, let's jaws it and get to the news.
Yes, as you mentioned, Ozzy Osbourne, the legendary Prince and Darkness, and of course the lead singer of Black Sabbath, died yesterday at the age of 76. 76. He died at home with his family just 17 days after a very cool farewell concert in his hometown of Birmingham in England. The July 5th Back to the Beginning show reunited Black Sabbath's original lineup for the first time in 20 years and was streamed worldwide. Despite being confined to a throne due to Parkinson's disease, he delivered an emotional final performance that raised millions for kids' charities and Parkinson's research. Born John Michael Osbourne in December 1948, Ozzy rose to fame in the early 70s with Black Sabbath, pioneering heavy metal with genre-defining albums like Paranoid, which is awesome, and Master of Reality. After being fired from the band in 79, he launched a wildly successful solo career with hits such as Crazy Train and No More Tears. He ultimately sold over 100 million records globally. Diagnosed with Parkinson's 5 years ago, he gradually withdrew. Tributes poured in from all over the music and sports world, with figures from Metallica to Jack White honoring him. His family is requesting privacy during this time of mourning, understandably, as fans around the world celebrate this icon of rock music. My only direct connection to Ozzy is, besides being a fan, is having once seen him and his wife waiting, and a couple of their kids. We were all waiting for a cab together in the cab line at LAX, and I was like, is that? Oh yeah, it is. And, being a New Yorker, New Yorkers don't talk to celebrities. We leave them alone, which is why celebrities like to live in New York. And so,
oh really?
Yeah, they, we don't go, dude, I really love your music, dude, you're awesome. Now, can I have can I have an autograph? You just
that's the opposite of what we do in LA.
You let them be, because that's the polite thing.
That's the opposite of LA. Even though we are teeming with celebrities, and you're bound to run into somebody or another if you live in Los Angeles. I've never had the good luck of bumping into Ozzy Osbourne, but generally
there was no missing him. It wasn't like, oh, that could have been some other dude who looked like him. No,
right? Well, yeah. How do you can't mistake Ozzy Osbourne?
And he was in full getup and everything.
I think that's just what he looked like. I think this is just that's what he looked like. Like he. That's how he
there's
dressed.
Pictures of him in the New York Post from the 80s where he's like, it's a very preppy look that he had. Yeah, strange.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, favorite song, Ted?
At home.
Well, at home,
Paranoid,
he's like in sweatpants.
Paranoid for me is like, the Dickies cover. Holy cow!
For me, War Pigs, hands down, awesome. One of my favorite songs. Amazing lyrics, and obviously the creation of this genre.
He really also created. He created two genres. He created the family reality show as well as the which he said was very stressful for him and his family. Really almost tore them apart and drove his kids to drugs. So that's not good. But yeah, no, he did, I would argue, invent heavy metal. There are other progenitors as well. But yeah, I mean, he's super important.
Icon.
And also he kind of, like a lot of geniuses, he kind of blundered into it, like the whole Prince of Darkness thing. There were people who sort of criticized them, like they're evil. So they embraced it and sort of rolled with it. So I get that. Like they stopped calling me anti-American when I put out a book called The Anti-American Manifesto. You always want to own it. So yeah.
Yeah, he just leaned into it, and he's explained before that the whole bat thing, he thought it was a prop. He didn't realize it was a real bat when he bit.
Well, there's still controversy as to whether that actually happened or not, right?
Well, that's what he said. I've seen him say in interviews, like in recent years, that he was like, yeah, I thought they handed me a prop, Because like you said, the whole thing was a shtick. Like he was a member
Yeah, of
of the
course.
Anglican Church of England. Like
Of
he
course.
was an Anglican Christian. But because everyone was like, oh, they're dark, this metal, what is this metal thing? They just leaned into it and ended up selling a gajillion records. It was a whole shtick. It was, he just leaned into it with look at the black nails. That he was like,
Mhm.
you know what? This sells. And a whole
The
genre
truth,
has
he
been
was just
created
he
because of
was a
it.
British kid, and it's so cool, honestly. I mean, what a great bookend to his life, to be able to go back home after having all this success. Where he didn't really feel so great in the UK. He always had mixed feelings about it, and to be able to go back and be recognized there, just a few weeks before he passed away.
That's wild.
That's so amazing. I mean, what a
Yeah.
gift, really.
Yeah. And I think I can't believe how his music has transcended generations like there are kids now, like young Gen Zers are wailing and crying over his death. Like they were even the Gen Zers, many of them were even too young to watch the Osbournes in their reality TV show. They literally only know Ozzy as a musician, and they've, because this is classic rock to them, right? Like ancient rock music to them. So they're like,
Yeah, it's
whoa,
very,
cool.
very old. And look, it's old music for me, and I'm
Yeah,
61 years old. I mean, I was a little kid when he started out. So,
yeah.
all right, let's keep going because we have a lot to do here. House Speaker Mike Johnson, uh, in full pussy mode, is rebuffing pressure to act on the Epstein investigation. So, in order to avoid having any kind of investigation, he's basically shutting down Congress early and sending everyone home for the August recess, even though, it's not what? August? That's the word I'm looking for. Anyway, Johnson said that he wants to give the White House space to release the Epstein information on its own. In other words, cover, and hoping that it gets washed off the headlines by something else, despite the fact that both parties want those documents released. The House of Representatives has been kind of debating this a lot for the better part of a week, ever since the Republicans' leaders said that they had support for a vote on the Epstein files as they raced to pass $9 billion in spending cuts. Johnson unveiled a resolution that had no legal weight but would urge the DOJ to produce the documents. Trump asked AG Pam Bondi to seek the release of testimony from grand jury proceedings. We already know about that. Echoing Trump's position, Johnson insisted that he too wants the files released, but only those that are quote unquote credible, whatever that means.
Well, yeah, exactly. Define that, please.
Johnson, who has relied heavily on Trump to hold on to his leadership post, said that the president's reluctance to release the information is out of concern for Epstein's victims.
Uh-huh.
Even with
who have actually come forward themselves
and asked for them to be released. Yes. And by the way, Ghislaine Maxwell is apparently meeting with prosecutors, so we'll see.
She's being subpoenaed. I mean, Ted, she's behind bars. Do you have a choice? Can you still reject a subpoena while you're
you can
serving
refuse
time?
a subpoena, and you can also negotiate for a reduced sentence or whatever. So even
really,
yeah, for sure. Yeah, she's still a human being. She's not a slave just because she's behind bars.
But I mean, how can she can use this as leverage to be like,
1,000,000%.
Hey,
she could say,
I'll talk if you guys
let me
adjust my time.
Let me out. Yeah, let me out. If you want me to talk. That's what I would do if I were her. That's certainly what her lawyers will advise.
Yeah, I'll sing like a canary, but I don't know if that's going to happen.
Tweet. Representative Tom Massey, whose contrarian stances, in other words, ethical stances, are often a thorn in the side of the leadership, is gathering support for a legislative maneuver that would force the bill to a House vote, even without the consent of leadership. Democrats, of course, are eating popcorn and enjoying this whole thing and trying to take advantage of it and to say that they will vote with the Republicans to try to force a vote on this. Ro Khanna, California Democrat who joined Massey, said it's about transparency in government. It's about whose side are you on? Are you on the side of the rich and powerful, protecting men, or are you on the side of young girls and America's children? That's, yeah. And, I don't think that MAGA world will have forgotten all about this after Labor Day. I think that's what Trump is thinking. I mean, considering that Epstein has been a subject of great controversy and interest for the better part of 5 years, I would say pretty much people can wait until September.
Well, this is not going away. Thomas Massie has said so himself, which means that tells me Thomas Massie ain't letting go. So that's fine. Send everybody home, Speaker Johnson. Send them home for a month and a half. Get some extra time. They're going to come back in 6 weeks, and Thomas Massie is going to be right back at it, and he's going to bring this back up. Podcaster world, alt media world is not going to relent. So I don't know. I don't know what Speaker Johnson thinks he's doing here, other than trying to run cover for Donald Trump.
They're trying to run out the clock. They think that people will forget. They think there will be a tsunami or an alien invasion or a volcano in Ohio or something
or perhaps
that will make us forget all about this.
Perhaps, I don't know, an Israeli nuclear strike into Iran, something bigger.
Or an Israeli nuclear strike into the United States. Who knows?
Those Israelis, that's what they're hoping
for. They can do anything. You never know.
That's true. Under Bibi, he's a man literally under fire himself, because if things go smooth, God forbid things go smoothly for Israelis, because that's bad news for Netanyahu. If things go smoothly at home, right, then they might turn the microscope back on him and be like, hey, weren't we trying to ouster you for corruption and your wife?
There is that.
He might but this guy with the whole, everyone saying that Epstein has all these Mossad connections, and Ghislaine Maxwell, obviously her dad was an asset to Mossad, if not directly an agent, and at least an asset. There are direct ties there. It's not, it's less than 6 degrees to Kevin Bacon here. There's a lot of holes in these stories, and Trump is nuts if he thinks asking Speaker Johnson to ring the school bell early for early release, that they're going to come back and forget. Massie is not going to forget, especially as Trump is turning his ire directly on Massie, saying, I'm going to support whoever to challenge you. Massie's not going to let up, and and Elon's backing him. So that's bad news.
This reminds me, Manila, a little bit of the summer of 1973 when the Watergate stuff was percolating along, and it was different because there were long, very civilized hearings where witnesses were allowed to talk at length and nobody talked over them. They were in a non-air conditioned hearing room, right, in the middle of the summer in Washington.
Ew.
So everything was languid and sweaty, and everything just drags on for month after month. And then this guy, Paul Butterfield, comes in, this very minor, functionary. And, he's like, so, blah, 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 and everyone's like this. And he's like, oh, and then Butterfield's droning on, and he goes, so then, then when the president, he listened to the tape of the conversation, and everyone goes, what? And one person's like, could you say that again? Are you saying that there are recorded conversations in the Oval Office? And he's like, oh, yeah. How often? I was like, everything. Wait, you're saying every conversation in the Oval Office is tape recorded? Right. You see reporters scrambling and running out the door to use the phones, right? And it's totally like everything explodes. Now, if the Nixon White House hadn't tried to cover up and kick this can down the road for so long, that moment would have never happened. And he would have finished his term. So Trump is not learning from the most important president of his lifetime, the one that should have influenced the most, Nixon. He should have, even though he copied a lot of Nixon's shtick, like the silent majority stuff, all that kind of stuff. But he should have paid attention to that. It's the cover-up. It's never the crime. He should have just come forward. Unless there's pictures of him balls deep in some 12-year-old, he should just come clean, right? And just be like, this is it. This is everything, as I promised. I already told you, everyone knew I partied with him. That's all true. Because this is just like, it's just the bleeding is every single day. And every day that passes increases the
Right.
probability that there's
Cover
going to
up
be
is
a
always worse than the
Butterfield type
crime.
revelation. You know,
It's always worse than the crime. And again, I've said this from the beginning, Ted, when all of this, the new Trump team coming out and saying, a couple weeks ago saying, oh, nothing to see here, folks. I was like, well, then why is Ghislaine Maxwell behind bars specifically for a sex trafficking ring?
right.
What ring?
Well,
If there's no
the accusation,
ring,
I suppose we're supposed to believe that it was a ring it was a one-person ring involving Jeffrey. He had a voracious appetite. All of the
of
tail
1,000 girls
was just for him.
Wow.
Yeah, so he must have been, highly.
Yeah, despite all the videos and the his multiple properties, which, by the way, I discovered he had a mansion in Kiev that nobody talks about.
Really?
Isn't that interesting?
That is interesting.
He had a lot of properties, and apparently he had a big villa or mansion or whatever they call it there. He had a big property in Kiev, which to me makes sense given that, according to the New York Times, Kiev was known, or not Kiev, but at least Ukraine was known as Europe's most corrupt country. That there could perhaps be some ties to, the modeling agency friend. What's his name? Les Wexner? Is that him or is that another guy? I forget whose name does which, but the modeling agency guy in France and all of these Ukrainian young models, they might be something there, maybe not. But I thought that was odd that everyone's like, hey, nothing to see here in Kiev. There's a war. Don't you know there's a war happening? Like, you can't come look at the late financier's mansion. No.
All right, let's keep going here. People with eating disorders think that weed, magic mushrooms, and acid are the best drugs for combating eating disorders. According to an online survey of 7,600 people published yesterday in JAMA Network Open, that study includes people around the world who reported having these conditions, and they answered queries about how a variety of drugs affect their symptoms and their mental health. Cannabis was highest rated for improving symptoms, most popular drug for folks who self-medicate. And while people reported that prescription psychotropics were effective for mental health broadly, they were less effective for eating disorders. This big caveat, this survey was disseminated online, and participants self-reported their conditions as well as their experience with drug use. And while the results vary slightly when you get into the details of which disorder you have, for example, cannabis is considered to be more effective for people with anorexia than those with bulimia or binge eating disorder. Still, study shows that there's interest in using weed and magic shrooms to treat eating disorders, for which there are extremely limited pharmacological options. In 2023, the journalist Danielle Meinert wrote in Stat about how she self-administered a therapeutic dose of shrooms and ate a bunch of foods she'd never tried before in an effort to combat her avoidant restrictive food intake disorder. I wouldn't know an avoidant restrictive food intake disorder if it bit me on my ass. I tried an untested DIY therapy and it worked, she wrote. It's an interesting essay and, of course, just one piece of anecdotal evidence. As always, more research is needed.
So I think when we open the show about Ozzy Osbourne, too bad he's not around anymore. He's a day late on this report, or left a day too early, because I think Ozzy knew a thing or two about psychedelics. And
yes, he did. Yeah,
and LSD. Yes, so, it's strange to me that for a lot of these issues, there are hallucinogenic natural modes that you can arrive at the same type of thing that Native Americans have been doing for a millennia. Like shrooms and psilocybin. There are a lot of things that are, I guess you can say, homeopathic because it's grown from the earth, that native tribes have
I don't
used
think
for
that's
a
what
millennia that do the
homeopathic
same thing.
means. I think
Well,
homeopathy is different.
it's
I
just
think
not.
homeopathy is like sort of you trigger an immune response from your body using something natural, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, or using homeopathic modes is basically
If it's from
using
the earth, it's organic.
non-big pharma.
Although, frankly,
That's what the whole
uranium is
industry.
from the earth. Arsenic is from the earth. There's lots of poisonous stuff in the earth.
Sure, but you're not trying to poison yourself here. This is trying to cure yourself with natural remedies rather than big pharma. And obviously, Native Americans who have inhabited this country for 1,000 years, there are a lot of
longer than that.
Probably longer than that. But they had knowledge of the land and what plants do what. And now here we are in 2025 going, oh, hey, maybe weed's gonna help with it. I think the Native Americans.
We do know the psychedelics and we do know the psychedelics and psychotropic drugs can rewire and be helpful to some people for these, basically these mental conditions. But not everybody. So it's
no, it's not obviously not, but there's not even any, if you went the big pharma route, there's not even a medicine in big pharma that is a one size fits all, right?
So I mean, I don't know.
Varies person to person
for everybody, but I take your point. All right, an election is heating up in Somerville, Massachusetts. It's got a lot of personality and even a little bit of scandal, just no people. It's a very hot race, lots of contenders, says Cole Scott Rubin, a local resident. A group of felines are campaigning for the imaginary office of bike path mayor on the Somerville community path. And one candidate has a very real enemy. It's dirty politics, said one resident. The original race, we have photo evidence, it's all over the Somerville Discord, was Orange Cat versus Barry, who's the incumbent. I see Barry all the time. I see Orange Cat almost as much. And then other candidates started coming in, and then Barry's sign was stolen.
There's Barry's sign right there. That's Barry. He's got a little bit of the Hitler stash.
He's a Kittler.
Yes.
It's dirty politics, said one Somerville resident. I already talked about that. A couple of hours later, Barry's sign reappeared with her promise to make cats outside again. Barry's owner, Mallory Bisset, kicked out the race a few weeks ago alongside her friend who owns Orange Cat. My friend Janet and I had a goal to elevate the persona of Orange Cat and to give him the attention he deserves relative to Barry's fame. Barry, who she calls the unofficial incumbent, is an indoor-outdoor cat and treats the bike path like her backyard, which is one of the reasons why Bissett wanted to put up a sign. He wanted to make sure people knew that she had owners, that she was well taken care of and loved, and she wasn't just a random cat roaming around. So she should remain here and not be claimed as a lost animal. According to Bissett, Barry has even received an endorsement from Somerville's mayor. So unlike Mamdani, Barry is at least being able to collect official endorsements. The community has also joined in, and it's now become a competitive and creative field. Freya is running as a member of the Communist Party. Orange Cat is running with the Catalyst Party, and Claudius is representing the Indoor Cat Party.
Lot of contenders there, Ted. Who would you bet on?
Well, I was reading, so I didn't get to look at the video of the.
There's even a dog in there. I just want to say there's a French bulldog. There's a French bulldog in there.
Dogs, stay to your own lane, dogs. This is a cat.
Are you saying that dogs are not allowed to run for bike path mayor in Somerville? That's not cool, Ted.
Yeah, dogs aren't invited. This is a cat race. Dogs, you have a lot of your own stuff. Dogs already are. It's already a very Kena-centric world. Like if you look at the signs at the vet, there's always like a giant picture of a dog, and then like the cat is like, and the rest from Gilligan's Island. It's like bullshit. Not to mention there's more cats than dogs, and cats have been humans' pets for much longer than dogs. Cats are smarter than dogs. That's already been proven. So it's kind of like, look, dogs are great, but they are second-class pets, and we have to understand that.
I disagree.
Well, they're maybe fourth. I mean,
cats may have been around longer.
Cat, ferret, Fish?
No, Ted is wrong.
Then dog? Maybe?
Ted
Well,
is way
fish
wrong
is
on this
smarter.
because
Look, Clovis
your
literally,
your cat will eat your face if you
literally,
die in your home.
Clovis heard me talking
Your
about
dog
this.
will guard your body. I'm
Look,
a dog
who would
person.
you vote
I would
for?
vote for the French bulldog.
Would you
Clovis
vote for
is cute.
Clovis or the French bulldog? Come on.
I would go for the
Think
French bulldog. I'm a dog
carefully.
person.
Think carefully, lest you piss
Freya
off Russia.
Freya is the one-eyed cat. I just want to say this is a, like there's a disabled cat here. So Ted, you might be an ableist if you don't vote for Freya.
That's all right. I'm kind of like
she's
I'm
a black
like,
cat.
I'm into two-eyed cats.
Ted, I used to feed a solo-eyed stray cat when I lived in Arizona outside of the station. We used to have like
Freya is a cute cat. Plus,
30.
not to mention, she is from the Communist Party, of which I'm a
that's why I thought you
member.
would be interested in voting for her because she's a communist.
Plus, I also like her name too. So
Freya.
That's
a good name. Anyway, I thought that was a cute story that I can't believe this is actually happening in this small town, but it's
very funny.
It's a real thing. So don't say we're BSing. All right. So we're going to move along to our guest. Our buddy Aquiles Larrea is here. So let's jaws it, Ted, and get into some economics, finance, and cost of living talk.
The circle of life in China's business world, as a promising technology or product comes out, Chinese companies by the dozens or sometimes the hundreds storm in to compete. They ramp up production, drive down costs. As the overall market grows, the competition becomes increasingly cutthroat, and rival companies undercut each other. And that all sounds good for the consumer, but then these companies have to endure razor-thin profit margins or even losses to try to get market share. Adding to the competition, China's local governments, each with its own target for economic and job growth, support their homegrown champion and shower that company with financial and bureaucratic support. Soon, nationally, the entire sector, awash in overproduction, is trapped in a race for survival. Although most governments around the world encourage competition and low prices, China's worried about it. They call it a crisis of involution. This is a sociological phrase widely used in China to describe a self-defeating cycle of excessive competition, which could lead to very damaging deflation. Deflation is, of course, what happens in times like the 1930s Great Depression, when prices go down. What's wrong with prices go down is, of course, that people don't have any reason to spend money because anything that they're interested in buying is going to be cheaper later on, the longer they wait. So the economy tends to seize up. Xi Jinping, China's top leader, pledged to take steps to crack down on low price and disorderly competition and eliminate outdated industrial capacity at a high-level economic policy meeting. At another recent meeting on urban development, President Xi questioned whether every province really needs to rush into, say, AI or EVs. Price wars and involuntary competition will only encourage bad money driving out good money, wrote the People's Daily, which is, of course, the official newspaper of the Chinese Communist Party. Simply rolling prices downward will not result in a winner. China's efforts to go after involution are taking on new life as Trump's tariffs discourage exports to the U.S. Other countries are also wary of a flood of cheap Chinese goods coming their way. The unsold products, combined with a slowing domestic economy, have intensified competition, fueling deflation. Newly produced cars at the BYD factory in Zhengzhou, China's largest EV manufacturer, slashed their prices on nearly 24 models of cars in May. So China's GDP deflator, a broad measure of prices, has fallen for 8 straight quarters. That's 2 years in a row, the most prolonged downturn on record. Pretty amazing when you think about how overheated the Chinese economy was for decades. In June, the country's producer price index, measure of the price of goods leaving factories, fell by its biggest amount in nearly 2 years. Fierce competition, overcapacity have plagued industries such as steel and cement. and fast-growing sectors like solar and EVs have quickly become a race to the bottom. So now Chinese firms are collectively dominating market share in an industry, but the individual companies are all going broke. BYD, the EV manufacturer, cut those prices, like I said, in May. The Chinese Association of Automobile Manufacturers, which is a government industry group, said that was a bad idea and warned about the perils of price wars. So this is a super interesting story for us Americans after all of the trouble we've had with inflation, especially post-pandemic. Here we have the world's largest economy, China, and I wonder if maybe we might be going down the same path. Joining us to talk about this is friend of the show, Achilles Larrea. He's the CEO and founder of Larrea Wealth Management, author of the book Wise Up With Your Money. Check out his new YouTube channel, Achilles Larrea 1061. Achilles, been a long time. Thanks for coming on.
It's a lot of acronyms, guys.
Yeah.
Hi, good to see you.
Nice to see you guys. Hope you're enjoying your summer.
Oh boy, it's not a calm summer.
No,
But
I wish I was lying by the beach.
Yeah, I seriously could. All right, let's leave that behind because now we got to look forward. And according to Steve Forbes, just yesterday, he was predicting that we're going into a major recession with major inflation. I think he was in New York. What are you hearing on the street? What are things looking like for not only the investor, but the average Joe who doesn't invest in the market, is afraid to? What are you hearing?
Well, first off, a lot of people are still investing in the market, no matter what you're hearing at this particular point, through their 401ks and other investment vehicles. But what I am hearing is that we're starting to hear a slowdown of sorts, where people may not be putting the percentages that they did into their 401ks or not sopping away that money, prices are still high, if not higher than before, contrary to what the administration is telling you. Another thing is that you say to yourself, okay, well, if the prices are high, maybe I'm going to hold off on that big purchase. I don't mind so much the little purchases, but maybe that home, maybe that car, maybe we're going to hold off on that. But it's not necessarily a given. We just found out that home prices are at all-time highs, yet the demand in certain markets, especially the metropolitan areas, has continued on the upward cycle. So that's another thing. Year over year, prices are still high here in New York. I don't know about where you guys are, but and we're
New York.
starting to see a slowdown of sorts, but nothing that says to us, uh-oh, we have problems coming. Inevitably, yeah, do we have shakeouts in the economy? Are we going to see downward trends? Absolutely. We were supposed to have a recession 2 years ago. Never happened. Could it happen this year? The numbers really don't support it
We're
at this
kind of
particular
overdue,
point.
aren't we?
What's that?
We're kind of overdue, aren't we?
Oh, we're way overdue. We're 2 years overdue,
Yeah.
but the market has been chugging along, or should we say the economy has actually been chugging along in spite of inflation starting to creep up. I think that's the biggest concern of the Fed right now. Maybe not necessarily the administration, but the Fed is concerned that inflation is still not tamed per se, and that the price index, everything is going up, and what's next? Is it, waiting for the next shoe to drop? Is it unemployment? Is that going to start creeping up? Because that's been happening slowly and steadily, but at different points we've had where it's kind of dropped off and we haven't seen such a big move to the upside on unemployment. And also inflation, if you just look at the number itself, yeah, it's gone up, but it's not something that's incredibly of concern at this particular point to most consumers.
Okay, let me ask you about this we've had you on, a couple months ago. We were talking about Trump and all of his tariff threats and whatever, and just yesterday he had the Philippines president Bongbong Marcos Jr. here. He struck a deal with Japan to to reduce the tariffs, but also yesterday, while Bongbong Marcos was here at the White House, I'm in Washington D.C. GM released their earnings also yesterday. To summarize, they said because of the tariffs that they stand to lose roughly $5 billion within the full calendar year. They marked losses in Q2. They're saying these tariffs are really hurting the auto industry. What are you seeing happening with that industry? I mean, if anyone's been out looking for cars like this summer, for whatever reason, not because you just want to go spend on a car, you need a new car. I mean, that's just something you've got to have, especially if you have a family. The prices are through the roof. We haven't seen addendums. It's just the sticker price has gradually increased. I don't know if they were getting ready for Trump, and they because of his threats on tariffs, but the prices, it's not an additional price. It's on the sticker price now. What are you seeing? How is that industry adjusting to these like flip-flops of tariffs coming from Trump, especially in the auto industry?
I think you have to look just not only at the car pricing, which of course has gone up, you got to look at the secondary market of used cars, and that's gone up again. For a time, it was starting to abate a little bit, but it's coming
Mhm.
back up again. Also, the price of auto parts, which come from different concerns, different countries, has gone up substantially as well, and will continue to go up if these tariffs, are in play for a long period of time. And the funny thing is, we're paying for this, guys. We're paying for this, this tariff deal. Yeah, It's kind of like taking from Peter to pay Paul. Where we're going and we're going by these used cars or new cars and goods, but we're the ones footing the bill at this particular point. So it sounds like a great, idea in theory, but in this particular point, everyone is going to suffer for any long, prolonged period when it comes to tariffs. It's never been a good strategy. This isolationism that we put forward has never worked in the history of the United States. As a matter of fact, during the times that we have tried it, the economy actually shrank and did not do well over that period of time. And the funny thing, if we go into a recession, most recessions are 6 months in length. They're not that long, but anything prolonged, I mean, we start all of a sudden that S word comes out, stagflation, or you talk about China with deflationary pressures that are occurring there. Much different story in China than I think in the US. We tend to adapt very quickly to the changes in the environment, the economic environment and such. So a little bit of a different story. But, do we really want to start having that stagflation, deflation conversation, recession conversation? Wow, it gets pretty negative and moody if we go that direction, don't you
Yeah,
think?
Steve Forbes was actually comparing this to of what he predicts is coming like in the next few months. He says he thinks we're going to see an economy that looked the way it looked in the 1970s.
Well, that's an
Gas and
interesting
everything.
point of view, and I've actually met Steve. He's a great guy. The thing about when you say things like that, where's the evidence? I mean, we're seeing that the economy did expand. We're seeing that the particular tariffs right now are having that short-term expansionary effect, and it is short-term. It's not, the for tomorrow, some tariffs could be gone for all we know, or they could be higher. We don't know. It could be lower. We have to ask ourselves, as far as GDP, are we spending much more than we're bringing in? And that's always been the case with big economies. You always have a lot of expenditures. There's really no uh, there's nothing to say, hey, we're going to stop here and not spend as much. But, at the same time, you got to say to yourself, wait a minute, if we're going to have this going on, what do we still have a unemployment number that is controlled somewhat. We're still seeing inflationary numbers, although not controlled, that are not out of this world, not say, sound the alarm bells. So, we have to keep that in mind. We're a little bit different, with all respect to Mr. Forbes. It's just not supported by any real evidence at this particular point, in my opinion. Could that change in the next quarter or so? Maybe. But I've been saying on media for I want to say the last 2 years, we've been expecting a recession. It never came, and the economy keeps growing. We still have, because of the low employment, people are going and spending money. So that helps. That has not stopped whatsoever. Maybe the purchases are, albeit a little bit different, but they're still occurring. I also believe that when it comes to inflation, if we go over 4%, if we start creeping back up, right, there's going to have to be other countermeasures in order to work, to combat it. And that's what this is really the Fed's strength. Its purview is to really control inflation, help control unemployment and the like. Those are its mandates. So that being said, I think we're not going to see a recession anytime this year. The numbers just don't support it. People can disagree with me. I've been wrong. I want to say a year ago, I was wrong. I thought a recession was imminent. And, I'm not afraid
I
to
did
say
too.
that. This particular point, though, I don't see it, guy.
Steve Forbes is like a compass who points south. He's always wrong about everything.
Is he really?
Oh, he's never right about anything. It's kind of remarkable. It's always like Steve Forbes says, and I'm always like, and you're always wrong. It's nothing personal.
So do the opposite.
Yeah, like whatever. Yeah, exactly. Like if he's your broker, if he says sell, buy. If he says buy, sell. Anyway, but let's talk about China. Let's talk about, is that a unique situation that they have and that they're able to maybe try to address with the remnants of state control of their economy, which they have a hybrid capitalist socialist model, right? I mean, more capitalist than the other. But is that a phenomenon that is unique to China, or could we have a similar dilemma sooner rather than later, but without the ability of the government to slam on the brakes?
I think China's a completely different animal. I mean, like you said, you have the remnants of state control there. We have, uh, they are not as quick to respond to dilemma as we are here in the United States, where, if you think about it, whenever a company has problems here, immediately cut, employees, immediately make nimble moves to move forward. Small companies benefit here as well because of their nimbleness. Chinese, you're talking about huge conglomerate. There's been a problem there for quite some time. I want to say over 3 years now. The real estate market has been down in the twos for quite a long time, and I don't see that changing anytime soon. And the deflationary, that's where you can start talking about the deflationary environment appearing. We're already seeing that with the real estate market. We may see that with consumer goods going forward if we haven't started to see it already. But these are the things you have to stay on top of. If I were a premier in China, it's going to come back and bite you sooner than later.
Yeah, I have a quick question for you, Achilles. Is that me and Ted, we kind of went round and round about this. And now, Grant, I'm not an economist. I pretend to be one. I'm some dumb hick out in Montana. I live not too far away from a ranch. Okay, so that's me. The world where I live in, especially younger people, and by younger I mean 20s, 30s, people are living off of credit. They're cash starved. Wages have not gone up, but yet inflation goes up 2 to 4% every year. And so the question that I have is, how is having deflation, how is having a lower cost of living going to hurt me? Because as you know, I just got priced out of my house. I'm now living in a storage unit that got turned into an apartment. I mean, the middle of the country is getting hollowed out. And so I could really use a lower cost of living right now. And I've talked to a lot of people over in China, and they ask you, hey, well, what do you pay for your apartment? And I tell them, so that's insane. They pay like $400 a month for an apartment about the same size as what I'm in now. And I'm paying like a lot more than that. And so I don't understand the boogeyman. Sure, I understand that deflation makes asset prices go down, so people are in stocks and things. But if it's cheaper to live, where's the downside? I don't see it.
Yeah, and you ask a great question, Robbie. What you have to also remember is, okay, prices go down, then all of a sudden people start getting laid off, because the first thing that's going to happen is that corporate earnings are going to go down, and then the corporations are not going to be able to sustain the amount of workers that they have currently. So the first thing that happens is that you're going to see that cutting of the workforce. More people unemployed creates even more problems, more strain on the system. You're also going to have inflation start to creep up. Should that happen, the price of everything, although it's low during in that environment, all of a sudden starts to creep up, and things start getting more expensive. So you're creating even more problems at that particular point. But it's not, it's not something that, when we talk about deflation, it's not something sustainable. It's absolutely not sustainable. It's not something that you want to have for any prolonged period of time. Yes, maybe 1 to 4 quarters tops. But once you start going beyond that, your economy's in real trouble, and you don't want to be in. That's a place where it's kind of like a good vacation place.
Sure.
You visit every once in a while, but you don't want to live there.
No, I
It's
completely
also
get it.
very
I understand.
advantageous to the wealthy, right? I mean, because let's say today prices start to fall, and let's say I've got $1 million. Well, I mean, I've got an advantage over you without your $1 million in savings, which is to say my $1 million is going to be worth $5 million, and I'm going to be able to buy everything, including you, for a song.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, for you, you still have no savings, right? So, you might be like, well, my Apple is now, instead of $2, it's now 5 cents or whatever. But overall, you're not going to have any income, right? That's what Achilles is saying.
Well, we have no income
Inflation is
now.
a nightmare. Inflation helps if it's under control. It encourages spending, because you're like, if I buy a house now, it's with my current savings, it's going to go further now than it ever will in the future.
But there is no spending now. I mean, that's my point, right? Because if my entire paycheck goes to pay the rent and utilities, I have nothing else to spend anywhere. I mean, you can forget about savings. Like if my truck breaks down, I'm not talking about me specifically. I'm just your normal flyover, Hickam in Wyoming or something.
Your problem isn't high prices. Your problem is low income.
Well, you can't fix that, right? Because let's just assume that wages are not going to go up, because they're not. I mean, when's the last time the wages have actually gone up in this country?
Probably point to more than 14 years ago.
I was going to say, in real terms, don't you have to go before 1970 in real terms?
Yeah, I mean, wages have not kept up with the cost of living. But you know what? This has also been pretty strategic with the corporations, because they have record profits and they're sharing them with the investors, but they're not sharing them with the rank and file workers. So that creates a huge problem. Like you said, I don't have enough money. I don't have any disposable income whatsoever. And if that's the case, what is my real alternative? Do I have to start a side hustle? Do I need to do these things? Third world countries, it's actually very normal to have a side hustle. I mean, if you look at Latin America, side hustles are norm down there, where you might have a person doing 4 or 5 different things, and that's a norm, because that's just to keep the cost, keep the costs at bay. But when we're talking about, where there's no alternative, or there's, then we start talking about the deflationary being a bad thing, because you can't sustain it. It's not something that long term we want to have house. It's advantageous uh, to the rich, as Ted mentioned, and that, I'm not a big believer in trickle down economics, because I don't think that the regular person gets helped when a rich person, starts spending. If anything, they're spending for the corporation. They're not spending on raising the wages up. They don't really care about that. They want to maximize corporate profits. And they do that by keeping your wage low and giving either doing share buybacks to enhance shareholder value, so the CEO can make his $20 million for that particular quarter, or that whatever he's making or she's making at that particular time. I don't see any particular advantage, to them stopping and saying, if well, they don't see any advantage, so they're going to stop and say, hey, we're going to raise, the wages. If they did, just hypothetically, if they did, then people will spend more. The economy grows. Inflation starts to bait down a little bit. Prices on everyday consumer goods and the like could see a little bit of a decrease, not much, but a little bit of a decrease, and overall positive movement forward. I think you can't hold wages down forever. They have been depressed for almost 20 years right now. And corporations need to say to themselves, well, if we're going to continue in this environment we're currently doing, or do better, then we need to pay our people a living wage.
Last question, I'll go away. If immigration was to be cut off, but H-1B visas, legal and illegal immigration combined, would that put enough pressure on companies at that point, because someone has to do the work, to raise wages to attract Americans?
It's a good idea in theory, but I don't think so, and I'll tell you why. All right, we need that intellectual capital right now from these people who are coming in. We do not have, in the American working class, a capacity yet to do some of these high level things that we have these people coming in to do. Could that change in 5 years? You could say to me, well, if we keep doing this, we're forced to train these workers, but then we're falling behind by doing that. We need to stay competitive throughout the world at all times. There are no days off when it comes to this. So when it comes to having high skill quality people imported, like an imported beer, corporations know they need to have this resource available to them. Not that they're forsaking the American worker, but they need to have both, in my opinion. Like AAA, it's a farm system for the major leagues. They got to develop the players before they're ready for the major leagues, right? Corporations need time to develop the American worker, and the American worker will never overtake, per se, the that intellectual capital that we're currently using, and that's not a forever thing either. So we got to keep that in mind too.
And we know you got to go, Achilles. One last quick question for those that have a little bit of money that they're sitting on in savings. Savings, obviously, no savings account is really offering anything, so it's not really wise if you want your money to do anything for you. Are bonds still a safe bet, or would you tell people to go with an index fund?
Well, it really depends on what's going on with you. If you need income, then bonds are one of many ways to move forward. But when you have certain returns, like this year, I'm seeing returns with our particular strategies between 14 and 26%. You say to yourself, well, why am I going to stay in bonds doing that? Now, I'm not saying stocks are the only place not to make money. It's just that the volatility and the emotional capacity of investors, of your everyday investors, kill portfolios, and people ask me, what does that mean? That just means that you can't handle it. You can't handle the truth. The truth of the matter is that this is a world not for the timid. Investing is a world for people who want to make money long term, can avoid the blips and the emotion that goes
Yeah.
into it, and say to them, hey, you know what? I can handle this. If I need to step away from step away from watching Kramer, step away from watching all these news outlets, step away from watching me for a little time if I'm making you nervous. But say to yourself, investing has over the years, I mean, take a look at since 1920, since the crash occurred, this is still, stocks are still the best way to make money. If you looked at bonds during the same period, maybe you made 5%, maybe you made 4%. Well, where are they now?
But it's steady,
We're-
stable.
Steady shows no growth. Because think about it, inflation is, let's just say it's 4% and you're making 5%, you're steadily failing.
Yeah.
Just my opinion.
The margin, it's safe for those, for people who, like you said, can't stomach it. The people that can't be in the kitchen and handle the heat, maybe bonds are the way you should go. But if you're ready for a bumpy ride, but with bigger returns, so the market is still, it sounds like, still the place to be. And especially because, to our surprise, we've been seeing like record highs closing for the day, right? Record highs lately. So it has certainly been a bumpy ride since Trump has returned to office. But who knows? Maybe there's some good times ahead. Achilles, thank you so much for joining us. Achilles Larrea is the CEO and founder of Larrea Wealth Management. He's the author of his newest book, is called Wise Up With Your Money. You can check that out and check out his YouTube channel at Achilles Larrea 1061. It's on YouTube, and I think Robbie's got you a Rumble channel set up too. I think we can find it under the same name.
I believe he does. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Thanks,
Thank
Achilles.
you so much, Achilles. All right, Ted. So that brings us to the end. I don't know about you. I'm somebody that can park a little bit of money in an index fund and just it's like loaning money to your family. Just never expect to get it back. Don't put your money somewhere, and with the expectation that you're going to be rich tomorrow. There's a little bit in bonds too, because it's a little steady. So even if you make like 1% beating inflation, something's better than nothing, I guess. But
well, I mean, the problem is that the real inflation rate is well over 10%, and that's a serious problem. I mean, we have but
doesn't the U.S. don't we collapse if people aren't buying the bonds?
Yeah, but I mean, look, we're going to collapse anyway.
Yeah,
we're headed toward collapse. So I mean, the solution to Robbie's concern here is, honestly, we need a state-run economy. We need socialism. I mean, it's the only way. Capitalism will always get greedy and keep all the goodies for themselves. They don't want to pay workers, just like Achilles pointed out. They pay us as little as they possibly can, or maybe nothing at all if they can get away with it. Slavery is the highest form of capitalism. So, I mean, if you want to, if you want a better life for everybody, you got to get on board with overthrowing the government and installing communism. That's just the truth.
Well, that might get us dinged on something. I feel like that statement.
Maybe.
I just want to be clear, Ted. We did not. This show is not endorsing any kind of violence. That's not what we said.
Nope.
There's a distinction. There's a distinction, and there is a difference.
That's
so
true.
For the
true.
The YouTube censors out there, because it's not going to be Rumble. I'm looking at you, YouTube censors. Mm-hmm. We did not call for any sort of violence or a violent overthrow.
Nor would we. And the vaccine is safe and effective.
That's right. Thank you, Ted. Speaking of which, any word from our sponsor, Robbie? Thumbs up. Do we have one today that we have to get to? Okay, we're fine. So we are clear. to send you off on this happy hump day, go get to humping, I guess.
Hey, that'll make you happy. Your income probably won't.
That's right. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be back tomorrow, 10 a.m. Eastern time. Thanks for being here. Enjoy your day. Try to stay cool. I heard we're in a heat dome if you're out here on the East Coast. So don't be dying.
Never a dull moment.
Adios, amigos. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.